Kickstarter is a video crowdfunding site that has radically changed the way companies raise capital. Kickstarter is generating roughly $1,000 a minute from roughly 3.3 million donors to finance more than 22,000 projects. Our guest today is a Kickstarter expert sharing tips on how you can have success with Kickstarter. It's the Business of Video podcast.
You're listening to the Business of Video podcast, where the world's top YouTubers and marketers talk about what's working with online video. This podcast is recorded live on Facebook every week, and you can join us when you visit businessofvideopodcast.com. Now your host, Owen Video.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Business of Video podcast, where video makers and marketers talk about video and marketing. We're live on Facebook every week, and you can join us or subscribe to the show on iTunes anytime. Just visit businessofvideopodcast.com. I'm your host, Owen Video. Today, I'm joined by my outstanding co-host. He's a YouTuber with over 33,000 subscribers, 1.5 million views. He's the owner at tubertools.com, and he's such a nice fella. He's Nick Nimitz.
Thank you.
Please welcome him to the show.
Thank you. You had me nailed until you got to the nice fella part.
I know.
I think that's up for discussion, I believe.
Yeah, it's on trial right now. Well, I'm glad that you could be here on the show today, Nick, and we've got an exciting show. We were sort of talking about it behind the scenes a little bit. Some really interesting stuff we're going to get into today. Have you ever, Nick, donated to or contributed to a Kickstarter fund?
You know, I have not. As of this moment, I have not. I can't say that I haven't wanted to, that I haven't seen something that I was interested in, but as of this moment, I have not. How about you?
Yeah, I have. I'm sort of a Kickstarter. I have to control my spending on Kickstarter, I have to be careful. And it's not just Kickstarter too. It's like Indiegogo. It's some of these different GoFundMe. We've participated in that. I am a real sucker for just cool, gadgety, neat projects that are $25 to get a free thing. You know what I mean?
Nice. So we basically, you do it enough that it allows me to slack and not do it, actually.
Yeah,
so thank
exactly.
you for that. Thank you for your service, in picking up my slack with the Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, anything I can do for you, or for the country in general, I think that it's worth it,
God bless America.
Yeah, generally speaking. So I'm excited to have you back on the show. We missed you last week. You were out at the Thai border, I understand.
Yeah, it was actually in Malaysia. I had to do a border run, so I had to get out of here. I have to do that from time to time in order to keep all of my legal things in order for me to be able to continue my stay here. So I hopped over to Malaysia, had to take care of my visa stuff, and then I came back, and I am happy to be settled in with that behind me and another successful year in front of me.
The show today is brought to you by biztubeacademy.com, where business owners learn how to dominate with YouTube marketing. Learn how to get clicks, get views, and get sales. Plus, get 6 advanced training lessons today when you sign up with a membership. You'll also get 5 new video training modules every month as long as you're a member. Just visit biztubeacademy.com. Today, we have a very exciting guest. Anthony Ambriz is a video marketing strategist and content developer at Video Power Marketing. He's the co-founder of 7 Figure Funding, a company focused on building online courses for creators and entrepreneurs. He's written a book. He's a daily vlogger. He's doing fantastic work in the online video space. He's Anthony Ambriz. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Oh man, thank you for having me be here, dude. I'm excited. I get to be with the one and only Owen Video. Man. So yeah, I'm Anthony Ambriz, and I think I got the introduction that I need. I don't know what else I have to say.
No, that was good.
Besides that, I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. You know, we met, I think, at CVX. I think that's where we officially met in person at the first time. We sort of met in passing. You're now working with one of my favorite people in the world, Jake Larson. And you're doing this daily vlogging stuff on Facebook, which I feel is very new and exciting. But not all of our audience might know who you are and what you're doing. So, Anthony, please take a minute. Just tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so my background is, for the longest time, I was the weird kid that said, hey, video should be a thing on social media and we should be doing video marketing. And this was back in like 2006, 2007. And when I would apply to jobs, people would be like, why are you doing like filmmaking and video production and doing advertising and marketing? And I'm like, well, why not? Because like video is where it's at. That's what I wanted to do. And so I just stuck to my guns and just kept going at it, learning everything I could. When YouTube came out, I started getting into it. I did post videos to Facebook early on as well. Video podcasting was something I got into too back in the days when the iPad video or iPod video came out. And that's sort of where my trajectory started, was doing podcasting, then video podcasting, then eventually YouTube, and then there's just been that progression. Anything that comes out that has video in it, like I jump in there, I learn it, and I see what I can do with it.
I definitely see that as the case as well, Anthony. Ever since I've met you, you've had your hands in a different part of video marketing and always sort of remaining edgy and cool and fast-paced. And so I'm really glad to have you on the show today. I can't wait to get into this topic with you on how to have success on Kickstarter and what are the things that we can do to avoid some of the pitfalls of a Kickstarter campaign. We're talking about the right and the wrong approach to Kickstarter. Anthony, tell us a little bit about what Kickstarter is and how we can use it.
Well, Kickstarter is a way you can start a business. It's literally in the name. It's to kickstart, right? And as like we see Nick in his shirt, start. It's all about starting now. Kickstarter allows you to do that, but you have to approach it the right way. Kickstarter is a crowdfunding website platform. I think it's the best one. Sorry, Indiegogo. But yeah, Kickstarter is where it's at. I mean, it's polished. It's great. But yeah, if you have an idea, go to Kickstarter.
So with Kickstarter, are there any type of campaigns that do better than other campaigns, or any type of specific products? Like, does tech do better there than, let's say, if somebody was trying to write a book, or if somebody was trying to, get funding for something else? Is there like a particular type of thing on Kickstarter that, that has a better chance of success?
Yes. And a way to summarize this whole session here, I want to quote my business partner, who has said the following. He said, "Stop trying to build products you like and think are cool. Start building products the market you are trying to serve think is cool." So that's a summary of this whole thing. It's like, so when you talked about tech and what kind of products sell the best or perform the best on Kickstarter, like we do have a list of the best kind of successful products or successful Kickstarters. I can go down that list really quickly. Wallets, watches, luggage, backpacks, notebooks, hoodies and jackets, headphones. Those have to be some of the most successful and overly saturated campaigns on Kickstarter, but they'll always perform. And I would say about 80 to 90% of the time they will be funded. And wow. they're funded. Some of them are funded to like 7-figure levels. I mean, when you think of the Pebble watch, which was like one of the most successful Kickstarters out there. I mean, like they were almost ahead of the curve of the Apple Watch and all these like smartwatches that came out. But again, when you really think about it, it's just a watch. Like, right. Sure. I rock the Apple Watch, but really I still just use it as a watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, because in a way, these products are products that you always like you always need a watch. You always need a luggage, backpack. They're things that people usually buy. Doesn't matter what season it is, they're going to buy it.
Plus, they activate the medulla oblongata or the amygdala. I forget what it's called in your brain. They activate the new, and you go, "That's cool. That's neat. That's $15." That's something that I can add to my collection. Really, it's something that I
Right.
can add to my collection, and I'll be the first to have it. I'll be the only one to have it. And this is something that speaks to someone like me. I'm going to admit a phobia to you guys, is I have a hard time buying shirts at department stores, because I have this feeling I'm going to walk into a party and somebody else is going to be wearing that same shirt, right? Because we all shop at Macy's. So,
Right.
when I have the opportunity to buy something or invest in something that is new, that's underneath the market, I think that speaks to me a lot, and it's a decent way to spend that extra cash flow. So we've seen a lot of these companies, some of these product companies have success. You mentioned the right way. What's the right way to approach a Kickstarter campaign?
Well, I almost want to first start off with the wrong way to approach the Kickstarter campaign, because even though I started this conversation of saying, like, if you have an idea, just start on Kickstarter, that's still actually a wrong way to approach it. Because the thing, right? I mean, as fun and as great as it feels to start something, you got to be smart when you start. And so the issue with starting a campaign on Kickstarter or trying to sell your product, like, people will sometimes just build a product and then just try to sell it on Kickstarter. But the thing is, like, the product has to match the Kickstarter market. Like, you have to build your product for Kickstarter. That's what you have to do. So people will tend to rush out, file patents, trademark everything. They start investing thousands of dollars into their idea and their product, hoping that as soon as they put that Kickstarter campaign out there, it's ready to go, when they haven't even validated their idea or put it through a qualifier to see if it'll match the Kickstarter audience.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the wrong way to start. So the right way to start would be to look at Kickstarter, immerse yourself in it, see what campaigns where products do well, and see if your product, your idea matches those campaigns that are doing successful on Kickstarter. You have to live in your market. So if you want to do a backpack, look at all the backpack campaigns, and just dive in there, see what they did for their branding, see what they did for their video, for their landing page, all that stuff. And then just start to build and validate it that way, like validate your product. And that basically leads us into talking about who the Kickstarter avatar is. Who is this demographic that lives on Kickstarter?
Right.
And Nick, I heard that you've never backed a Kickstarter.
I have not. I've looked around quite a bit, and to be upfront, one of the reasons that I have not is because the particular location that I'm in, because I'm in Thailand, and there are a lot of problems with things getting caught at the border and caught up in customs and things like that, and especially with tech. Yeah, and especially with tech and things like that. So even
sense.
Amazon, I don't even shop on Amazon for that reason. But if I was back in the States, then there are definitely things that I would have helped start.
Nice.
Because there's all types of awesome things on there, really out of the box type of things, and because of that, I would, it's definitely something that I would be into if I didn't have those worries of things getting caught at the border and that kind of thing.
Oh, that makes sense. I mean, you can still back a Kickstarter and not accept the reward.
Well, sure, but it's not. I'd rather get something that I'm interested in. Right.
This guy's like, want to buy a Kickstarter campaign?
Hey, I got some Kickstarter. I got some Kickstarter in the back if you want some.
Well, it's really interesting to hear kind of some of these product-based campaigns that are running. Anthony, what other types of products or services or campaigns have you seen on Kickstarter outside of physical product?
So the other big category on Kickstarter is gaming, board games, and video games, like the indie games. That's a huge market. The thing that we've found out with our research in doing Kickstarter campaigns and managing campaigns and consulting with them is that category, you have to build an audience first in order to then launch a Kickstarter. Because if you just come out of left field and it's like, hey, I built a card game or a board game, buy it, nobody's gonna trust you.
So who cares?
You need to build that authority, that trust, that even as fun as the game can be. Because I've played a couple of games that have been fun, but they haven't gotten funded. It's just because nobody knows who they are. And so that's a very unique category where you have to have an audience before you decide to launch there. And that audience doesn't necessarily need to be for that board game, and it just needs to be an audience that you already bring to the table, whether it be your own emailing list or they just know you as this great illustrator that then teamed up with somebody else.
Yeah.
Or if you're an influencer of some sort. But yeah.
But you're bringing.
So what you're saying then is basically, there we go again, Owen. My apologies. So basically, what you're saying then is people are basically saying, okay, here I have this idea, and instead of trying to basically get their own hype around it and things like that, they basically rely on the built-in traffic and the built-in stuff that's already going on Kickstarter. And basically, what you're saying is that's not enough in most cases.
Yeah, in most cases.
Does it just depend on the.
Yeah, so for the ones that the successful products I talked about earlier, like those, you can start from scratch without an audience, and you could just build it and get going. But for a board game and that category especially, like you need to bring an audience with you.
Okay, and so it varies per. All you.
That's always sort of been my suspicion, right? Is that. Right. These Kickstarter campaigns that get funded with $1.2 million in 30 days or less, like these were not just newbies onto the marketplace, right? These were people that have reputation, that they have audience, and then they bring that to Kickstarter where the audience can be monetized and invited to participate in the funding process. Is that what you're saying?
So for some categories, not for all of them. For some of them, yeah, you could be a nobody and be somebody once you're on Kickstarter.
What would the ideal process be for somebody, like, let's say that I had like a Velcro roll that I'm trying to get funded on Kickstarter, right? So what would my process be as far as, hey, I really want to get this this new Velcro contraption funded on Kickstarter? What would you recommend for people that are wanting to get their stuff onto Kickstarter, wanted to make products specifically for the sake of putting on Kickstarter?
Right. So it's first building that Kickstarter avatar, which is similar to creating a buyer persona if you're into the marketing landscape. So for Kickstarter, you gotta think like is 75% male on Kickstarter. That's who backs projects. And then you got to look at the other stuff like 80% of males actually are who back projects. As high as 80% of the males that are on Kickstarter will back projects. But then you need to look at sort of who goes on Kickstarter. So it's people that usually love to travel, that love gadgets, that love new technology. They're gamers, they're shoppers. So you start building your avatar that way of looking at like, okay, so these are sort of some of the points I have to hit, but then you need to look at what one thing that we've created is sort of like this idea qualifier for Kickstarter. So then first we go, is it a male product? Is it a product for males? And it's not to be sexist, but for Kickstarter, most of the demographic, like I said, 80% male.
Yeah,
so
we've talked about that before on this show and on my other shows, that sometimes, when you're talking, a lot of times when you're talking marketing, we're talking about hard data and numbers. We're not talking about political correctness or satisfying a niche group, here or there. That's not what marketing is about, although that there's room for that. Marketing is numbers. So when we say 80% males, we understand that you're talking about the hard numbers is 80% of people who do what you want them to do on this site are males. So I absolutely get the importance of that. So now you're talking about building an avatar, correct?
Yes. Yeah. You build an avatar, and then once you've built this avatar, you had to put them through these qualifiers that we've set through. But an interesting note, even though 80% is male, that doesn't mean that you can't do a female-based product, because males will then purchase that for their significant other or for, their sister or mother or whatever, which is very interesting. We've seen that with Arabian heated jackets. A lot of guys will buy that heated jacket for their, for their girl, because, they're always cold.
I can't relate.
I don't know if I have data to back that one up, but
girls are never cold,
right? But yeah, going through these qualifiers. So a male product, 25 to 35-year-olds, has to be techie or gadget, and even so, even if we look at a wallet or a backpack or a notebook, like how do you sort of make it a techie gadget type of thing? That's where you sort of give it a type of new twist, a new angle, and that's one of the qualifiers as well. So we try to say like, oh, this wallet has a tracker put into it, so that covers like the tech part to it. Or this backpack, you can charge, your phone or your laptop. It has like a compartment that has its external battery. And with the heated jacket, that's apparel, but then there's a heating element in it that you have buttons you can push to heat the jacket. So yeah, you can. And then I think with recently there was the notebook that you can microwave and everything deletes from it. You can reuse the notebook. So see, like all these things have like this tech type of gadget thing to it.
Right.
And so they have a new twist as well. The other thing is that it has to be mass market at the same time. The other big thing is like, can you build an email list? So before you start launching, you got to start building that email list. And so that's a big qualifier for us. It's like, if we're going to launch a new product, we got to know that there's an email list we can attach to it. Or even if you don't have an email list, is there someone else that you can get that email list from? We did this with the Raven wallet, where we reached out to Tracker, and we were like, we're going to add Tracker technologies to our wallet. So can we sort of, have you promote to your email list our wallet that will have your Tracker? And so that was like a great, collaboration, great marriage there. And so that's for, we didn't have a wallet email list, but that's how we were able to get that going.
How do you recommend starting an email list? Is that something that you build on Facebook or you build on WordPress before coming to the table?
Well, so yeah, you definitely want to have that email list before you launch. And so one of the examples was that it was collaborating with somebody else that already has an email list. The other thing is there's these great services that will sort of let you set up like a landing page and be like, if you share our stuff, or you'll be the first to know. We just need your email and so forth, or you could win, the product or whatever. And it's just still like email building tactics and techniques. But the biggest one we found for Kickstarter is being able to collaborate with other Kickstarter, like other people who have launched Kickstarters before, because they will already have an email list that fits, again, that Kickstarter market.
Right.
And there's companies that have email lists already built out, like Backers Club, where they just blast your campaign to people who just like backing Kickstarters. And there's companies.
Nice. So inside of Kickstarter, just out of curiosity, because I've never put a product in there, personally, of course. I mean, definitely not, since I've never even bought anything there or contributed. But do you get access to buyer data inside of Kickstarter as well? Like, like if you sell wallets, right? Do you get access to buyer data for anybody that backs you as well, so that you can use that for your next campaign and things like that?
Yes and no. You get some data, but it's not like, you still have to take people off the Kickstarter platform to either get that Facebook pixel going, or your website tracking information. And so one thing, once you start getting backers, it's all about communicating with them, like sending surveys, so you can start collecting those emails from them. Because later on, if you're going to just launch another Kickstarter campaign, you've already built your first list of your buyers there. And so those are some of the tactics that we use too, is continuing to build that email list from people who have backed us, and then giving them those incentives of giving us their email.
Nice.
But yeah, and then the great thing there is then you can start building lookalike audiences on Facebook and YouTube, and start running those ads to your Kickstarter campaign.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about the biggest mistakes people make on Kickstarter and how you can avoid them. We're talking with Kickstarter expert Anthony Ambriz. So that was really interesting what you just said, Anthony, about taking your subscribers or your donors on Kickstarter and then transferring them over to a Facebook audiences where you can market to them and continue to engage them through the process. That makes a lot of sense because I've donated to more than a few, campaigns, and I see them in my newsfeed. They're interacting with me, so I guess they're doing it right. What about what about making the actual sale? What have you seen with Kickstarter videos that successful campaigns have in common?
So this is where it gets very interesting. Like, this is where you can see one Kickstarter campaign that has a video that's a completely different style from another Kickstarter campaign that's super successful that has a different style of video. So we haven't seen like a very consistent type of video that tends to outperform other videos. So there's almost like there isn't enough data yet to see that correlation or the causation and all that good stuff, right? Because like for me and what we've noticed too is that a lot of it has to do with the product.
Right.
If the product is a good product, people are going to back it. Like the video is almost like and this is hard to say as a video marketer, it almost becomes supplementary. Like it's like I've seen videos where no one says a word in the video and it's just so random, but it's like, well, I'm already on this. Because you got to remember too, a Kickstarter campaign is essentially a long landing page. Right. And so sometimes I've looked at a video and I'm like, oh, this is a crappy video, but I still like that product.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because I use Kickstarter as a research tool, right? And this is probably why I get sucked into a lot of these campaigns. And we have some interesting feedback here in the audience. Ann was saying I've contributed to several campaigns. Mostly, one time I was stiffed. Another time I didn't think the product would come, but it finally did. I certainly went through that. I donated to a stabilizer campaign, and it was like, oh, it's coming. And then finally it did come, and I do like the product. So we've had some of those experiences there, but I use it as a research tool where I go and I say, okay, what is, for example, I work with app developers. I'll go to Kickstarter and I'll search their website for app campaigns. Right. And then see which is the top performing and then look at their video to see what kind of video they're using to tell the story of their app. And I agree with you, Anthony. It's really one company might have like this cool animated like bomb, bomb, bomb video. The other one might just be the CEO talking, I'm Cy Greenbloom of Spatula City, and they're sort of talking about the product there. So it's interesting to hear that you would say that it's got that same, you're not really sure if there's a consistent system in there.
Yeah, like it's because some of them will be explainer videos, some of them will be just feature-rich videos, like just giving you lists of all the features of what you can do. Some are like use case scenarios is the whole video. Some of them are just straight up a commercial, and some of them are like those heavy like here's the story of how I came up with this and this big brand type of thing. And all of them could be successful or all of them could fail. Like, there just hasn't been like a solid, every time you do this kind of video, you're definitely going to get funded. We just haven't seen that data as of right now. But again, this is only for Kickstarter. Like, in other situations, like for other companies, like you can see, there is a direct correlation of like how somebody features their product or talks about their brand or their company, where you can get that direct sale. But with Kickstarter, you have to realize that Kickstarter is not a store. Right. It's like an investment play, and just like those commenters said, where in you've experienced where I didn't get the product, or I sort of feel like I got ripped off, or it never came, and finally it came like 2 years later. That has to do with the mistake of the person launching that Kickstarter campaign. And that almost leads to the last two qualifiers, which are low cost, high price value of the product that's being built, and then the competitive pricing. Because sometimes you see these campaigns say like, oh, we only need $10,000 to launch like a product, like to launch smartwatches. It's like, yeah, $10,000 is not going to like if you get funded $10,000, you're only going to be able to give out like 100 of those watches.
Right. Right. So that's
So yeah.
that's a great point. And where do you price your product? Where do these things sort of find their sweet spot?
Yeah, so that's where you have to definitely see that low cost, high perceived value. I think one of the best examples of that is, are you guys familiar with Freshly Picked?
Yeah.
So they make these little moccasins that cost about $2 to $3 to produce, and they're sold at $60. They were, I don't believe they were a Kickstarter campaign, but like you see that nice margin there, and that's sort of how you have to look at your product. You have to make sure that you can prototype, source it, manufacture it, drop ship it. There's all this like after all this stuff that happens after you successfully fund a campaign that you should have thought about before you decided to launch the campaign in the first place. You have to do all that research. You have to do all that homework, because you can't just get that funding and then say, okay, now I'm going to go do it. Because there's those sad stories like the Coolest Cooler, who, yeah, they got 10 million and then they weren't able to produce their product in the end. They had issues with manufacturing. Half of that 10 million went to affiliate links and things like that.
Interesting.
And so they only had 5 million to work with. And after that, like, because $50,000 mistakes in like getting a prototype or a mold is not something you want to keep paying for. Like,
right.
Depending on your product, of course. But
any advice on how to do a Kickstarter and stay in your business and not become a reward fulfillment business? What would be your answer to that?
Interesting. So this is a scenario where they launch a Kickstarter, they started their business, but now they don't want to continue launching Kickstarters, or is that what you're saying?
My understanding of this is basically they have a business already and they want to use Kickstarter to maybe add to it. Maybe to add a new product line or something like that, okay, or add a product to it.
Right.
But basically keep their business going fine and not transition their business into a fulfillment. That's my understanding of it. Understanding of the question.
No, I mean, I think launching a Kickstarter is a great way to add a new product line to your business.
Right.
You got to realize that a Kickstarter campaign is exactly what it is. It's a campaign. So it's a marketing campaign that you're going to be launching and that you'll be focused on for a month or 2 or 3, depends on how long you set up your Kickstarter, and then all the homework and research that you're going to do. If you already have a business, then I'm assuming you already have an email list. You already have ways to validate your ideas. You have customers that you can get feedback from right away. So that way, when you launch, you know it'll be successful, and then you can reach out to them and have your customers purchase this new product.
I think you've got to have your pricing in order too, right? Like,
right.
You've got
to
price. We're like, hey, if we're going to fulfill 10,000 of these, then we need to price it where that contribution, that revenue is going to enable us to hire 4 people, to come in and help us with these fulfillment issues.
Yeah, definitely. You always got to make sure that you price your Kickstarter campaign, to answer the question that you had asked before, to price it to where if you do just hit that mark, you'll be able to fulfill everything that was purchased.
Yeah, and I think that's why we run into these situations where you donate to a campaign, and I've actually seen this more on other platforms than on Kickstarter specifically, and I think it's because the bar is set so high for Kickstarter. Alex, I'm not mentioning any names here. Next thing you know, I'm gonna get a letter in the mail, cease and desist. And then the next thing they'll do is they'll post on their Facebook page pictures of flowers and bunnies, while they're trying to sue me. But hey, look, that's all a sidebar. Here's my question for you. And Alex Young is asking a question about the acquisition of Huzzah, and getting the live streaming component into Kickstarter. How does I'm throwing on you right now? Kickstarter acquired the live streaming platform Huzzah or Huzzah. How do you think live stream video will help or hurt a campaign on Kickstarter?
Oh no, I definitely think it will help. Like as soon as we saw the live feature added, we started using it, and it was great because we were able to get interactions right there and then, and sort of almost give people a big glimpse behind the scenes of what the company was like. And this is talking about like Ravian heated jackets. like we were able to show the product of like how it's going, the process of it being made, of like how it was designed, any questions that people had that even though most of the time were already answered in the Kickstarter campaign, people sometimes don't read or watch the video. So
Right.
like, we were able to do that great interaction. And from that alone, like we got a couple hundred like backers of people just, backing it right there, because sometimes people sit on the fence, right? And if they see who the founders are or who the creators, designers, and get that behind the scene look, that you build that trust. That's what you're doing. You're building this great trust, this great authority, and then people are like, okay, I'm ready to jump the fence and become a backer and support this project. So I think it's a great feature that was added, and it should be used.
I can't wait to see more of that. For our audience that doesn't know, what can you say about how much money how much of the revenue does the brand get to keep, and how much does Kickstarter themselves keep?
That question. It's about, from what I remember last, it goes 5% goes to Kickstarter and all their services and all that stuff. I think with Indiegogo, it's a little bit different, to where if you don't get funded completely, I think Indiegogo takes about 10%. And then if you do get funded, then they'll take about the 5 to 7% range.
They take 10% of what you wanted to get funded, or 10% of what you actually raised?
What you actually raised.
Okay.
Indiegogo. But yeah, for Kickstarter, it falls into that 5% range. And then here's the other thing too. At times when these campaigns get funded, you got to realize that there's no bank transaction that's happened while you've been funding it, like while you put your pledge or become a backer, until it's reached that goal or that limit, right? Until the goal has been reached on Kickstarter. And once that happens and the campaign closes, because there's a time limit you set to it, once the campaign closes, then Kickstarter and their services and all that stuff start going through and start talking to your bank and trying to withdraw that money. Oftentimes, like a good percentage of those people, like the money doesn't go through because people then cancel it, or just the bank doesn't accept the setup or whatever it is, and so not all that money that you see the goal reach goes straight to the creator.
I never would have thought of that. That. What about, you say on Kickstarter you have to raise the funds. So if you go after $100,000 and you don't get it, then you don't get anything, correct? Like you go after $100,000, you get $35,000 in commitments. And then what? Kickstarter's just like, hey, tough bananas?
Yeah. No transactions happen, nothing.
Wow. Is that something you like or dislike? Because for me, I get upset when I hear that. What for you is why do you think they do that?
Oh, well, it's to avoid that experience of like, people not fulfilling, what like the orders, right?
Got it.
Because you're making a pledge, and then at the same time as you're the Kickstarter creator, you need to be able to fulfill.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So
it probably saves Kickstarter money on processing fees and things like that as well. Like if they had to reverse those transactions, then there would be extra fees involved in that and as well.
That could be
I think the weird thing about that would be, like you were saying, Owen, sometimes you get caught up in that because you are there doing research for something else, and then you run across a product and essentially I don't want to say impulse buy, but there's probably a lot of people on there that they're there looking for something else or whatever, and they see something and then they have that impulse thing that happens where they're like, oh, I definitely need this, and then because that transaction doesn't take place right away, then I'm sure that creates a lot of buyer's remorse that can happen down the road as far as people wanting to cancel out and things like that.
Yeah, and
that's unfortunate.
And you can cancel before like the time limit ends. So like if the campaign's 30 days, you can cancel before the 30 days. If you became a backer for a product.
Man, I think it's really fair to the consumer. As a business owner, I can see how you can get overwhelmed with some of those things. Well, people might cancel and people might do this and people might do that. Stay focused, though, guys, on the end reward, because this platform is raising $1,000 a minute. You know, my wife's cousin launched a campaign on Kickstarter, came to the table with his own very, very small list, raised 80%. He did reach his goal. It was just a few thousand, but he did reach his goal. And 80% of his goal was accomplished by one guy on Kickstarter who is just a random floating Kickstarter investor type. Who loves to kind of put his money in on big projects. And so they finance the first phase of his app. Is there, Anthony, a strategy in asking for a smaller, more achievable amount of money to get to phase one and then asking for a bigger chunk down the road?
So when you launch your campaign, like what your goal is that what you're asking?
Yes.
So
like let's say you want to raise 100,000.
Right.
But you start one campaign trying to raise 10,000.
Oh, so like doing it in a phase. That's very interesting because like with Kickstarter, you need to have a working prototype in order to launch it.
Got it.
On Indiegogo, I don't know what the rule is there. I think you can have
really interesting.
I think you can have a cardboard cutout.
yeah, and I think that you have different products that do better on these different topics. What would you say is like a checklist if you've launched on Kickstarter? What are some of the things that you would look at in sort of a checklist if the campaign is not doing well? What would you say are these things that you need to first look at?
Yeah, so if it's not doing well, definitely start collecting emails from the people who have become a backer, because let's say the campaign does die. Now, when you relaunch again, you could have an email list ready to go. And here's the thing, like these are sort of like a bonus tip here. When you launch a Kickstarter, the reason why you want that email campaign is because you want to get a surge of backers right away, because then you kickstart the Kickstarter algorithm.
Right.
A lot of these sites have algorithms going. And if they see a campaign that's getting funded like right away, that's like getting all these backers, like Kickstarter's like, all right, let's promote it, let's put it to the top, let's feature it, let's do all this stuff, or let's recommend it and suggest it. So that'd be one thing start collecting emails.
Yeah.
The other thing is start looking for these third-party sites that help with that process. Like Backers Kit, Backers Club. These sites, again, it's you'll have to give a percentage of what you make sometimes, or you have to pay a fee to use their services. But they essentially send your project to these big email lists that have people that just want to back Kickstarters.
I love that.
But now, if you don't have funds and you don't want to give up some of your the money that you're going to get, you could just try to collaborate. I mean, collaboration is key when it comes to YouTube and all these other things, especially on Kickstarter. Collaboration is still a big component of Kickstarter. And so start messaging other Kickstarter campaigns and start saying that are live, and start saying, hey, can we sort of send a note or an update to our Kickstarter community, and you can send it to yours, and sort of we can cross promote each other. And you got to look at stuff that's relatable to your product as well. Right. And so that's another great way, another great thing to do to sort of revive your Kickstarter. And then the other stuff is reaching out to family and friends. Sometimes, from what I've noticed, and even as a YouTube creator, when we launch projects, we try to for some reason are quiet about it and don't talk to our own family and friends.
Yeah,
to support us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And so tell them to like back your Kickstarter, and here's sort of like a little hack, right? Tell them to back your Kickstarter, tell them to just do it, and tell them they can cancel when it like towards the end. But what you're doing is you're sort of building some momentum to it, so that when other people come in, they're like, oh, look at this is getting close to the funding goal, I'm gonna back it too.
Yeah, you got that social proof sort of coming into play. Plus, you're kickstarting the algorithm with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then by offering your friends and family. Now, this is an approach that I don't generally like, but I've done it before in the past myself, where you say, hey, don't worry, you can cancel at any time. It's sort of like at the end of our landing pages where it's like 100%, 100%, a product money back guarantee. At the end of the day, what you're doing is you're buying the purchase now. You're buying the purchase from them. You're buying the back from them. And then, you've got 30 days to sort of continue to sell them and continue to get them to build belief in this product, while at the same time sort of gambling that they're not going to go through the challenge. Like they'll buy for you, but are they really going to cancel for you over $25, $100? A Kickstarter campaign has an element of coolness to it, where your multi-level marketing vitamin company doesn't have that same feel. Because I know some of you guys are going like, oh, yeah, my friends and family, I hit them with my vitamins a year ago and they hated it. It's like, yeah, but that's a different thing. That's sort of a
definitely different thing.
A different way to approach it. With your Kickstarter campaign, how is there a time limit on how quickly you have to reach your goal?
You can set it up to however you want. So
30 days, 90 days, a year.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen a campaign for a year, because there is some sort of strategy to that as well. Because you're basically setting up your own time limit to say, like, how much time am I going to spend marketing this?
That's a great
point.
How
much runway am I giving myself to market and to be talking to manufacturers, or to be, getting ready to deliver once I do reach my goal. So
plus you're going to be leaving your people with no product for up to a year, you know what I mean? And they may have forgotten about you. They could cancel. There's no transaction at that point. So I could see there's
credit cards would expire too.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. What about you? We talked a lot about physical product and apps. Right. What about service-based companies, digital products? Do we see any of that happening on Kickstarter?
So I have seen digital products, but it's sort of set up as a reward. More than just like the final product. Though with films, that's usually like the best way to distribute films and music. That's going to be probably the easiest way to distribute those. And so, for those, again, I feel you do need an audience. Or you're banking on you have some of the best music, or it's going to be one of the best films, and people are sold on it. And so that's
huge gamble.
You having that skill and that talent that people are like, yes, this is what I want to buy. But if you're at that level, you've probably already built that audience too.
And it really depends if you've kind of gotten out there already. Anthony, we've covered a lot of ground here today. I've really enjoyed the expertise and the talent that you've brought to the table. As we wrap up the show today, what's one piece of advice you would give creators, business owners out there before they get started on Kickstarter?
I would again quote the thing I said, where stop trying to build products you like and think are cool. Start building products the market you are trying to serve thinks is cool.
So if that was my market, I would be making banana hammocks. No, I'm kidding. But it might be a neat product to start dabbling in. No pun intended. Anthony, great content today. How do we learn more and stay in touch with you?
We do have the Ultimate Kickstarter Guide. It's a course. We're currently revamping it, but you can check out the first edition of it because it still has a lot of these great golden nuggets to continue with the banana hammock similarities there. But no, check out sevenfigurefunding.com. There you'll see what the course is all about. And then you can join the newsletter there as well if you just want to get some of these tips sent to you via email. And check out the course. It's all there. We're going to be revamping it soon. We're currently creating new modules right now, all the good new stuff that we've learned over funding. It's been over 20 Kickstarters this last year that we've funded, personal projects and other people's projects, all reaching hundreds of thousands of dollars in each one. So
Fantastic.
we know what we're talking about.
That's fantastic. And you're vlogging daily over on Facebook.
Facebook, yes. Had to start. You can check that out where I motivate you to start something today, now.
Really great content over there. I love what you're doing. Check him out. Anthony, great having you on the show today. Nick, you did an amazing job as always. I'm thrilled to be co-hosting the show with you. Nick, how do we stay in touch with you?
You can find me. I'm Nick Nimmin all over the internet, NickNimmin. Specifically, head over to youtube.com/NickNimmin because that is my main thing that I really just absolutely love. And in addition to that, you can also head over to tubertools.com and tubertools.com/members, which is now open as well for video graphics, sound effects, all types of awesome stuff for your video creations.
We'll make sure to have links in the show notes. Guys, if you want to catch past episodes and future episodes, whether you want to join us live or check out the edited version on iTunes, visit businessofvideopodcast.com. Sign up to get alerts, get subscribed, and join us every week as we interview video makers and marketers talking about video marketing, as a matter of fact. Great to have you guys here today. That's going to do it for us. Join us again next week. I'm Owen Video, and remember, keep marketing. It's your only hope.
Thank you for listening to the Business of Video podcast. If you like the show, give us a review on iTunes or share this episode on social media now. Join us next time on Facebook Live. Just visit businessofvideopodcast.com and subscribe to the newsletter updates. This podcast is brought to you by Tuber Tools and BizTubeAcademy.com.